We started out today by doing a little bit with a softbox and a reflector. We did a little bit with the beauty dish type of lighting modifier and a reflector. And then the next thing I want to do is our third flash look for the day, and that is using umbrellas. So I'm going to spend a good amount of time using umbrellas because they're ubiquitous. Everybody's got an umbrella, and everyone wants to know how to do a better job with your umbrella. So we'll start out with a smaller umbrella. Then I'll show you what it looks like with the larger umbrella, and then we'll throw in a bunch of other reflectors. We'll throw in some smaller reflectors. I'll maybe try a silver reflector, and then we'll try the V flat. And again, the overall goal, where we're pushing for, is to fill in all the shadows and get a nice flat look around the model's face. So why don't we call our model Natalie up again. Natalie, I had change, so we're going to do some different looks for this next segment. And our hair is down, so just a little bit different look overall. So go ahead and grab a seat. We'll kind of maintain the same position. And we might try a couple things with their hair. You know, right now we'll keep their hair in front of her shoulders, but as we go on, maybe we'll move the hair behind the shoulders to show off a little more of that look overall. So, feeling good? Yep. Natalie's feeling good. You guys good? Yep. All right, let's shoot some pics. So I'm going to start off with just a simple umbrella. I'm using the same flash scenario that I had before. So this is the little Photix light, and I'm at about 1/8 of a power minus 2/3 from our last segment. So I'm just going to leave it there as a starting point. You never quite know exactly where you need to start at. So I'm just going to guess. And for this, I'm just going to move it in. Now, this is there's a couple of different types of reflectors. There's the reflect off the back, which is what this one is, and then there's some that are shoot through. Both are good, and it's rare to really notice that much of a difference between the two of them. In this case, most of my reflectors are just reflect off the back. I find that works fairly well. But if you want to get a convertible one, great. Sometimes you need to think about the space considerations. If the room is really, really, really tight, sometimes it's easier to get a shoot-through scenario. Then you can basically put the flash like really close to the subject like that. In this case, we're just going to do that right there. So I typically will take the shaft of the umbrella and kind of aim that shaft at the subject's face, in the middle of the subject's face. And to do that, a lot of times I actually have to stand over by the subject. So I'm going to get a little bit close to you here and just see, make sure the lighting is good. Looks great. And the next thing I'm thinking of is catch lights. So if the umbrella is really high, right? If the umbrella is high, get shadows down below the nose, and that's okay. It's just what's the look that I'm after today. So I'll just start here a little bit more centered. And because it's centered, I have to find a way to shoot around that umbrella. Basically look here, not quite high enough. I have to go a little bit higher. Fine tuning. It's okay to take time when you're setting these things up. You want to get the right look, and that's the most important thing. If you don't get the look and the model leaves, well, you have messed up. So take the time. Most of the time, you know, the model's fine with you fiddling around. It's also nice to have music playing on set. We don't have music today, but that's one of the, shooting with your first flash, one of the most important tips, have music in the studio. It makes everyone happy and smiley. Okay. I'm going to just do a quick test to make sure that we are tethered properly here inside of Lightroom. Looks like we're at 250th of a second, f5.6 and ISO 200. I'm just going to do a quick test shot. It looks like everything fired, and now we come into the Lightroom software. Life is good, and we're ready to take some pictures. It's probably the best shot of the day right there. Okay, I'm going to get connected to my little tether tools or spider holster thing here, and we are now ready. So, picture number 1 is just a test shot, just to judge the exposure. 1, 2, 3. Great. I'm so used to looking at the back of my camera, I forget that I got to look over here on the screen. Let me hit Shift Tab to make that a little bit bigger. Okay, wow, not bad. The initial exposure is looking pretty good. We can see the shadow falling off on the right side of the screen. Excellent. And then the left side of the screen is bright, just the way we like it. If I want a little bit more even lighting, I have to find a way to get this umbrella kind of more centered. And so to do that, maybe shoot just like that. Okay. So there we go. And again, I'll back up a little bit. Cool. Nice job. Good. Notice when her, let's look at those two images. I'm going to compare these two. This first one, and then I go back here with her head up a little bit. Look at how it changes the catch lights in her eyes. That's something to remember. When the head is down, typically it can obscure the catch lights like this one. They're still there, but they're not as prominent. So that's one of the things I'm always thinking of. How do you want those catch lights to appear? All right, so let's start picking the photo apart. Where do we want to fill in the shadows? Well, obviously we want to fill in underneath. So we're going to now bring in a reflector underneath. Now remember, this is a smaller umbrella. This is that 42-inch umbrella or 40-inch, something like that. So it's not wrapping all the way around here like that giant umbrella will. So a lot of times with the smaller, what I'll call the smaller key light, you have to add in a lot more reflectors around. A bigger key light, like that giant umbrella, you don't have to use as many reflectors. Okay, so we'll throw this in there. And a lot of the reasons why I'm shooting the same general lighting scenario is just to show you that you can get the same kind of look with different modifiers. Softbox, umbrella. All right, here we go. Nice. So now we fill in some of those shadows. Oh yeah, look at the difference that made. Look at her neck, fantastic. Earlier in the morning, the clothing that she was wearing was a blouse, and it kind of came up right around to her neckline. Now we get a halter top, something like that. Now we get those shoulders, nice clean beauty look overall. I really like the looks of that image. But we can do better. Maybe we could throw in another reflector. So let's see here. In this case, I'm just going to pick a silver reflector, and I need to find a way to hold that reflector. So if I've got someone on set, I can have them hold it for me. Because I'm going solo here, I'm going to show you that I can just hold it with my hand. And then I'm going to pull out another little tool to show you that you can clip it on. That's a very inexpensive part and product that you should all buy. So this is what it looks like without that. So you got to be like a juggler here. So I'm going to pull that in. Assume the position, look good. Nice look. Cool. And again, right towards me. Nice. See how close that is in all there? It's all within inches of her body. Oh yeah, very, very nice. Let's compare before the silver reflector and after the silver reflector. One of the reasons I like shooting tethered is because you can see this in real time, and if you tether to a larger monitor, a lot of the people on set can also see what's going on, and you can help describe what's going on, what needs to change. So shoot tethered, you'll love it. Okay, so this was there. Let's go larger. So that was with no reflector. And then I'm going to pull up along the bottom my film strip so I can see the images. And then this one will go Command click, and then C for compare, and then Shift tab to get rid of the stuff on the side. So there on this one I added the reflector on that side of the face. Subtle, right? Pretty subtle. But now we're starting to fill in all of those shadows. And you can really see it down here under the neck. It's a lot brighter down there. That's what I'm after. Let's change things up again. Let's add the big umbrella. So fundamentally the same type of photo, but now we're going to bring in the gigantic umbrella. And let's see what that one looks like. As I do this, because it's going to take me a minute or so, any questions that I can answer as I'm moving things around?
My question earlier pertaining to about being beauty lighting, I wanted to know kind of the scenarios on what you would use different types of lighting, like the clamshell versus the butterfly for different types of scenarios. So they're all beauty portraits, but I want to know the difference on if I'm shooting an actor headshot versus a business portrait, what would you use different types of lightings for that?
The modifiers themselves, right? In other words, which modifier to use for what type of look.
Yes.
Excellent question, and you're not going to like my answer. Because my answer is that you really are after the look. The look is the beauty look. And you can get to that look using any of these modifiers. And so I want to show you that you can use this umbrella. I want to show you that you can use a beauty dish. And I want to show you that you can use a softbox. Each of those decisions is a personal preference. It's a choice that you make. Some people really like the look of a beauty dish, and so they kind of gravitate that way. There's no right answer with lighting modifiers. And I remember starting out, when I started out photography, thinking through the same thing that you are. It's like, well, which one do I use for which type of scenario? And the answer is always yes, because you can get the look that you want with just about any of the lighting modifiers that are out there. So I'm gonna ask you to change your thinking process. And your process should not be necessarily what modifier should I buy to get to that look. It's mostly what look do I want, and then how do I use that modifier to get to that look. It's flipping that on its head just a little bit. Yeah, I know you didn't necessarily like the answer, but the truth is, as you'll see today, we can get this beauty look with just about any of these modifiers. And that's the key. Some of them are very inexpensive, and some of them are very expensive.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now we're going to do the same thing with a big umbrella. And I'll probably have to change the power because now the light it was going into like a 40-inch umbrella, and now it's going to like a 60-inch umbrella. One other point I want to make here let's see if I can, which camera needs to see this. I just want to show this off here. This is a diffuser. And so what I'm doing with that diffusion dome is I'm causing the light to really spread all around inside of the umbrella. If I don't, then the light coming out of the flash only actually utilizes a small surface area of the umbrella. You want to use the big surface of the umbrella, so you have to cause the light to send out all around. So put your little diffusion dome. If you don't have a diffusion dome, then at least pull out your little Fresnel lens here, your little diffusion panel that's built up inside of the flash, like that. Okay. Enough talking. Now it's time to take some pictures. So I'll take this picture with just the umbrella first of all, with no other reflector. And this is really big, so you have to be careful about where you place it because there aren't a lot of places to move around this gigantic umbrella. It'd be nice. I've often thought about maybe cutting a hole in there that I can shoot through like that. And actually that would be very useful. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Nice. And we'll check the overall brightness inside of Lightroom. I'm going to go back to E for loop. And there is the photo that we just took. I think that's the one we just took. No, it isn't. That's the photo we just took. There we go. All right, nice. You can see the upper left is pretty bright. The lower right is not quite bright enough. So in order to solve that problem, I can bring in reflectors, or I can move the light up and put it more on center. See, when you put it on center or on axis with the model, it kind of evenly illuminates that background. These are all the things you have to think about when you're only using one flash. When you have multiple flashes, then the solution is easy. Just throw in a flash there in the background to light it up. But now we have to think about even lighting. Light, obviously, because the flash is on the left side, that side's going to be brighter and the right side's going to be darker. So to even it out, center it a little bit more. We're blessed with a really high ceiling studio here. So I can actually move this umbrella up nice and high. If I'm in my living room or my bedroom or even my garage, a lot of times you don't have that luxury in that space. So you have to solve the problem with reflectors. But in this case, I am just to show you what you can do with one giant flash. I'm going to move it up like this. And then I'm going to shoot right below it. Cool. I bet this is going to look really nice. Here we go. I think I got the light stand in there. Take one more. Cool. So that's what's going through my head. I'm always thinking about how to get even illumination on the background. Ooh, and that's looking pretty good. Overall, it's a little dark. And because I'm lazy, I was just thinking what was going through my head is I could go up to the flash and I could increase the power, but that means I have to bring the thing down, and that's painful. So another solution is I'm just going to increase my ISO. So rather than shooting ISO 200, I'm going to go ISO, let's go to 320. So that's up 2/3 of a stop on my ISO, and that'll brighten up the photo a little bit more. Here we go, 1, 2, 3, and again. Super, nice job. As that's loading, the next thing I'm thinking about, oh yeah, there we go. Look at that nice bright white background. And you see, the higher that flash gets, or the higher the umbrella gets, it's sending light also behind her onto that backdrop. Another one of our cool tips for getting a white backdrop. And I like her collar, her neck, that whole line there looks fantastic. Let's bring in some other reflectors. In fact, that photo looks so good that, you know, I'm even questioning, do we need other reflectors? But today's all about reflectors and flashes, so we have to. We just have to. Okay, I'll bring in a white reflector on this side, like that. And again, we're going to fill in those shadows. Excellent. And I'm just taking these shots sequentially so you can see how the photo is built. Nice. We'll let that one load, and now I'll show you my cool little tool that I brought. Okay, there it is. We filled in some of the shadows. The next little tool I want to show you is this. It's about $15, and I don't even know the official name, but we're going to call it a light stand reflector clamp. How's that? Light stand reflector clamp. It's very inexpensive. It fits on the top of the light stand, and then it just clamps the reflector and just hangs it there. I use it all the time. So, and it was only like $15, maybe even $12, not very expensive. So we'll pull in another light stand here. I'll show you how that works. This goes here on the top of the light stand, like that. And then I pull over. Let's go with a silver reflector on this side. Just add a little more sparkle on that side of her face. You can see it goes like that. The disadvantage of this is you can't really angle it, right? You can't really angle it forward and back. So it's just going to hang there right next to her face. Okay, I'll move into the zone. Now it's feeling really claustrophobic. All right, we've lost our model. And about like that. Okay, so now, just to recap, one giant umbrella, one reflector there, and one reflector there. Excellent. I'm gonna have you turn the other shoulder towards me. Great. Nice. See what those look like. Oh yeah, look at those images. They're coming out very nice. Bright, airy, vibrant. Cool. I'm going to do one more thing, and then I'll let you guys ask some specific questions. I'm going to bring in a V-flat, just to show you what a V-flat is and how that works. So I'll pull these reflectors out. So V-flat, just to you can make these on your own. You can make them out of foam core. You can make them out of corrugated plastic. That's how I made mine. I went to my local hardware store and bought some big sheets of corrugated plastic. It's like cardboard, but plastic. And I think they're like $15 a piece. And you tape the middle, use gaff tape, and they're about 7 feet high, 6 or 7 feet high. And now you've got these giant reflectors. If your ceiling is not tall enough for that, well then just cut them down so they fit inside of your house. Okay, now it's challenging for the camera guys in the room, but at least you guys can see how this all works. This is a V-flat. The ideal V-flat that you make would be black on one side and white on the other. Sometimes you want to kind of take light away and make one side of the face darker. Other times you don't. Okay, nice. I know I'm blocking this. You guys just have to trust me. We're just basically creating a light tint. Okay, Right on. And then I'm going to drop this down. Cool. So now we should get wrapping light all around her. The key light is still the umbrella. That's reflecting into the V-flat, and now the V-flat is reflecting back just a ton of light from all different angles. Okay, here we go. It's a nice look. Good job. See how that looks. I did move the umbrella a little bit farther away, so I may have to increase the brightness a little bit. But that's a pretty good look. Pretty good. I might actually change the V-flat, given a little more time. I might actually change the back side of the V-flat so it's closer on this side, so it fills in a little more shadow. What the heck, let's just do it, because we're all about perfection here. Stands in the way. Thanks, Drew. You're always looking out for me, man. Okay. And I just need enough space in there to get my camera. Okay, great. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Super. And I'll pull this offset. I love using V-flats. Such a great tool, fairly inexpensive, and eminently useful. Okay, get this thing back there. No fall. So how did that photo look? Ooh, that looks good. Oh, that looks great. Have you seen yourself?
No.
Yeah, really fantastic. So we'll have to do a little Photoshop work to get rid of the V-flat that's in the photo, but that's easy. That's an easy solution. Okay, well, we have done not everything you can do with an umbrella, but I've showed you a few different things you can do with an umbrella in a very inexpensive studio setup. Basically a $70 umbrella and a big piece of foam core produced that image. Way cool. So let's open up for some questions about that process or any of the other processes right before that.
Sometimes I use Flash because I need to do a mobile studio in other locations, and the colors of the rooms are obnoxiously bright and have a color cast. Do you have any tips for using what kind of modifiers or angles to do to control color contamination?
Yeah, that's great. It's really important. Color contamination, the scourge of photographers all around the world. So what she's talking about is maybe you go into someone's house and maybe they've painted it from the 1970s. So you have some nice green on the floor, some nice orange or yellow on the walls. It's like, hey, it's time to update this. Let's get some more neutral colors. But this happens everywhere you go. There's some weird color in the room. So we have to think about that. As your flash lights the subject, the flash also lights the rest of the scene. Well, umbrellas are the worst when it comes to color contaminations. Color contamination. I always think of umbrellas as being light grenades. They just send light everywhere. And that's why they're wonderful, but also why they're hard to work with in a scene like you're describing. So, my recommendation, and this goes back to your question also around what type of light modifier should I use, you need to be able to control the light a little bit more to keep it kind of on the subject and the subject only. And that's when we go to something like a softbox or an octabox, okay? Let me describe why that's the case. So I moved my softbox over there, but I'll use this octa to describe it. Octa meaning it has 8 sides. The idea here, though, is that you can see that the panel, the diffusion panel, is behind the edge. So what that means is it tends to direct the light forward a little bit more, and light doesn't necessarily stray off to the sides. So an octa or a softbox allows you to kind of direct the light and prevent it from going onto the walls and ceiling. And then, let me grab one more thing. I see you still have another question, but this here helps a lot too. And this helps direct. Most of your softboxes and your octas have this, and this prevents the light also from straying onto the edges and onto the ceiling. And it just Velcros into place. So there we go. So that's another great solution for what you're after.
I was going to ask if that would help.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why these things always cost so much is because they have other little tools and baffles and grids. So this helps prevent that stray light. Excellent question. And also goes back to your question. A lot of times the look that you want, you can't produce that look in a certain type of room because there is color on the wall. So then you need to think, oh, umbrella's the wrong choice here. I still want that look. How can I create that look with my softbox or my Okta? Questions from the internet?
Yep. Let's do it. Therese said, great class. Can you ask Mike about feathering and where he points the lights so as not to get hot spots?
Okay, cool. So feathering, the concept of feathering the light is, again, I'm going to go back to my, I'll go back to my Okta here, and I'm going to go over to our model and just kind of show what I'm describing. So an unfeathered light would mean like this, straight on, okay? So light straight on, she's basically getting the full force or brunt of the light, the full surface area there. A feathered light would be something like this, where I angle it, so she's only getting portion of the light. We're like feathering it, so she's getting the edge of the light. In this type of photography, we're not really going for a sculpted look on the face, right? Everything we've done so far is all about creating kind of that flat look. So you don't necessarily really want to feather here in this scenario. Let me show you what that would look like if we tried to feather it. And I'll do it with this big umbrella. Feathering would be basically more side lighting and then maybe like pulling it off this way or even pulling it off this way so she's not getting the full force of it. And the reason why we don't necessarily want to feather it is because we don't get even illumination, which is the second part of her question. So let's just say we did something like, let's do this. So you can see what I've got going on here. The light's not fully on her. She's just kind of getting a portion of the overall quality of light from the reflector. We'll just take a shot. Sometimes we feather in a more dramatic type of lighting scenario. You can see what we've got now in the scene, in the final photo, is the left side is really bright and the right side is in shadow. So that's one of the dangers we run into when we try to do that. So I think my answer to her question is, in this type of lighting scenario, don't feather. Try to keep it straight on.
Why do you use front curtain flash sync? I thought rear curtain was better because any slight movement in the rear curtain is preferable, so avoiding blurring, basically.
Okay, cool. So there are, most cameras have 3 or 4 different synchronization modes, one of those being front curtain, and that's what I'm shooting today. Another one being rear curtain. And then there's another mode called slow sync flash. So what we're looking at, it doesn't really matter in this scenario if the flash fires at the beginning of the exposure or the flash fires at the end of the exposure, right? Because she's not moving. Well, she's moving ever so slightly, but it's not like she's doing jumping jacks, or it's not like she's on a skateboard going off of a ramp. If she was doing those things, then it would matter. Let's say that she is jumping off of a skateboard ramp. Well, then I want the blur to be behind her. And in that case, I use what's called rear curtain sync because it fires the flash at the rear or the end of the exposure. So she's moving through the air. There's a little bit of blur. So you get that blur, and then the flash fires, and now the blur is behind her. In the studio, it really truly doesn't matter. Because everything's happening fast. We've got a fast shutter speed. She's not moving around a lot. So it's just a mindset. I just generally use front curtain sync just because it's simple and it's just I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm pretty methodical in my approach and I like having systems in place. If I actually had a checklist, I'd be checking it off my list, but it's in my mental checklist.